welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Now, this is another episode where I will be kind of going bad against certain individuals who would probably consider themselves progressives. But this one it kind of makes sense because this is what this series is made for. I mean, this particular series of this particular show is kind of what it's made for. But I mean, it's not gonna just be that. Of course, we have the average things, but I mean, I don't know why I'm explaining this. This is my show. I can do what I want. So with that out of the way, let's get right into the news. The first news story is coming from Michigan, and it's actually really good news. Michigan plans to charge ex-Governor Rick Snyder in Flint water probe. Former Michigan Governor Rick Snyder, his health director, and other ex-officials have been told that they were being charged after an investigation into the Flint water scandal, which devastated the majority-black city, which led contaminated water, was blamed for the deadly outbreak of Legionnaire's disease in 2014-2015, the Associated Press has learned. Two people with knowledge of the planned prosecution told the AP on Tuesday that the Attorney General's office has been informed defense lawyers about indictments in Flint and told them to expect initial court appearances soon. They spoke to AP on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly. The AP could not determine the nature of the charges against Snyder, former health official director Nick Lyon, and others who were in Snyder's administration. The Attorney General's office declined to comment on details, and the ongoing investigation spokeswoman Courtney Covington-Watkins said investigators were working diligently and will share more as we're in position to do so. Okay, that's pretty good. But there is just one issue. Do they get the clean water now? Yeah, he gets charged. That's good. He's getting sentenced. That is good. But are they going to get the clean water now? Does Flint, Michigan finally get clean water during the Joe Biden administration? I mean, they should. They should have gotten clean water millions of years ago. But I guess this was just way too slow to do anything worthwhile for the moment. I mean, I don't see why. I would assume that clean water is kind of what you want to do as a baseline thing. Everybody should have clean water because you need water to live. I mean, you should, and that is. I mean, yeah, but it's a good thing he's getting sentenced, 100%. But I really want to know what's the deal with the water. Are they gonna get water now? Okay, now let's move on to the next story. And this is gonna be about a country that, is not controversial at all, really. Israel. Here is a report that has been released in regards to Israel. More than 14 million people, roughly half of them Jews and other half Palestinians, live between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea under a single rule. A regime of Jewish supremacy from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. This is apartheid. More importantly, the distinction obfuscates the fact that the entire area between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River is organized under a single principle, advancing and cementing the supremacy of one group, Jews over the other, Palestinians. Now, you might be saying, whoa, who the hell published this? Was this, BDS? Was this Amnesty International? Who was the group that published this? Well, here's the group that published this. B'Tselem. B'Tselem is an Israeli human rights organization. And they have a history of covering for Israel. So the fact that they are now literally just saying, yeah, there's nothing we can say. It's apartheid. It's pretty much, it's apartheid is what it is. That should probably give you an indication that either these things have gotten so bad that even Israel can't defend itself on this front anymore, or groups have gotten so loud that there really is no point in trying to hide these facts anymore. Either way, I would say it's pretty good. Well, not for, the Palestinians at the particular moment, but, I would argue that the fact that more individuals and more groups are coming forward in regards to the Palestinian issue shows that we're inevitably going to see some more broad solutions in the future. I would like to see maybe the Biden administration tackle the Israeli-Palestine issue and, I'm not going to say bring peace, because that probably isn't going to happen for a little bit longer. But, try to mitigate the dying. Now, of course, some people might say, oh, Joe Biden shield. No. If Trump were elected to a second term, I would be like, I would like to see that too. I'd like to see every president get elected to do these things that I want. I would love to see that. Why would I not want to see that? Alright? The next story is also really good. Twitter locks the account of a congresswoman who live tweeted about Nancy Pelosi's location during the riot. Lauren Boebert's account was unlocked following the publication of the story. So they unlocked Lauren Boebert's account, the QAnon, one of the two QAnon women to be elected to the United States House of Representatives, because during the literal attack, she was tweeting the location of Nancy Pelosi. And after this article was released, there have been some more reports afterwards indicating some pretty shady things in regards to the Capitol Hill riots. The biggest thing being that apparently some members of Congress gave tours to individuals who may or may not have been involved in the Capitol Hill attacks. In fact, there's been a claim that a member of Congress's mother, I think it's Boebert's mother that they're referring to, was one of the individuals who literally was at the riots. Now, I don't know if that's 100% verifiable, but it's been a claim that's been out there. So, it should definitely be looked into. Many people are saying there's no possible way that this could have happened without somebody on the inside doing anything. And we've seen Capitol Hill, police officers being less, aggressive than they would otherwise, even flat out letting them in. And members of Congress have also expressed solidarity with the protesters. They have been silent, they've been more quiet nowadays because it turns out not a good idea if you want to keep your political career going to literally be so buddy-buddy with insurgents. But, it's not working because people are still calling them out. Like Josh Hawley, Madison Cawthorn, Lauren Boebert, Mary Miller, Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're literally being like, oh, well, we didn't know things were going to get that far. It's like, no. Even if they didn't know it was going to get that far, you still incited the protest. Who cares? If there's a guy who's, beating the crap out of some other guy, and you're saying, yeah, kick his ass, and then he kills him, it doesn't matter if you're like, I didn't know he was going to kill him, whoops. You're still going to face charges for egging the guy on. I'm sorry, but, there's nothing, what else do you think is going to happen? But this actually leads into a story that kind of counteracts this. Mexican president mounts a campaign against social media bans, and this is actually going to tie into certain other aspects of, this. Because, AMLO is just one of the many individuals who's been trying to make this claim. Mexico's president vowed Thursday to lead an international effort to combat what he considers censorship by social media companies that have blocked or suspended accounts of the U.S. President Donald Trump. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador's administration is reaching out to other governments to form a common front on the issue. I can tell you that at the first G20 meeting we have, I'm going to make a proposal on the issue, Lopez Obrador said. Yes, social media should not be used to incite violence and all that, but this cannot be used as a pretext to suspend freedom of expression. How can a company act as if it has all-powerful, omnipotent, as a sort of Spanish intuition of what is expressed? And the Foreign Relations Secretary, Marcelo Ebrard, is starting to build an international campaign around the issue. Given that Mexico, throughout our president, has spoken out, we immediately made contact with other groups who think the same. The president's orders are to make contact with all of them, share this concern, and working on a coming joint proposal. We will see what is proposed. Now, I'm not going to pretend that this isn't an issue. Of course, it is. There have been some people who have raised legitimate concerns in regards to this issue. However, I'm going to be upfront and say this really isn't it. Like, I get the concern. There is concern with the potential that, there could be some suppression in regards to certain things. However, there is one other thing you need to realize. This particular issue is being raised at this particular moment to defend a particular person for doing a particular action. Like, this is all being raised as a sort of way to kick back against the liberal media and on both fronts. The leftists that are trying to rally against this are rallying against the liberal establishment media, whereas the conservatives think it's this big evil leftist liberal media. But the thing is, Trump has been egging on the rioters many, many, many times. This was just the final nail in the coffin for Donald Trump. If Donald Trump was deleted for no reason, then we'd have an argument. But here's the thing. I will defend Twitter accounts that are deleted for no reason. Not Twitter accounts that are taken down for inciting Capitol riots. I'm willing to make that distinction. There are people who are saying, we need to fight against media censorship. But then also, everybody points this out. The conservatives always complain and bitch and moan, we are always being suppressed by the media. Our organizations are blah, 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 blah. And then he literally goes, okay, this major leftist account was taken out. And all of a sudden, crickets. Nobody cares. You're making all these claims when Donald Trump gets banned, or when Dave Rubin gets banned, or Alex Jones. Then all of a sudden, bye-bye. No, nothing for any leftist accounts that get banned. I'm willing to make the distinction. It's the same thing in regards to particular groups that are prosecuted under particular things. I'm normally against political suppression of political groups. That is true. I do not believe that a government should go into a political organization and just randomly smash and destroy all their stuff and arrest all their members. However, if there's information that literally shows that particular group is planning to do a violent action, then by all means, do that. And this doesn't go for just right-wing militias or, right-wing groups. If there's a left-wing group that's planning on killing a mayor of a city, sure, get rid of them. Put them in jail. They deserve it. But if it's just a peaceful group or an account that's not doing anything wrong, don't delete them. And another issue that's been raised in regard to this is that people aren't tackling this issue correctly. For example, many people are just saying, just repeal Section 230, which I say, I don't know. I've never really heard it. In fact, I've decided for this video, I will live read what Section 230 clearly states right here. This is literally a live reading. I haven't read the full thing, but here we go. 47 U.S. Code 230, Protections for Private Blocking and Screening of Offensive Material. A. Findings. The Congress finds the following. 1. The rapidly developing array of internet and other interactive computer services available to individual Americans represent an extraordinary advance in the availability, educational, and informational resources to our citizens. 2. These services offer users a great degree of control over the information that they receive, as well as the potential for even greater control of the future of technology as it develops. 3. The Internet and other interactive computer services offer a forum for a true diversity of political discourse, unique abilities for cultural development, and a myriad avenues for intellectual activity. 4. The Internet and other interactive computer services have flourished to the benefit of all Americans with a minimum of government regulation. 5. Increasingly, Americans are relying on the interactive media for a variety of political, educational, cultural, or entertainment services. B. Policy. It is the policy of the United States, 1. To promote the continued development of the Internet and other interactive computer services and other interactive media. 2. To preserve the vibrant, competitive free market that presently exists for the Internet and the other interactive computer services, unfettered by the federal or state regulation. 3. To encourage the development of technologies which maximize user control over what information is received by individuals, families, and schools who use the Internet and other interactive computer services. 4. To remove disincentives for the development of utilization of blocking and filtering technologies that empower parents to restrict their children's access to objectionable and inappropriate online material. And 5. To ensure vigorous enforcement of the federal criminal laws to deter and punish trafficking, obscenity, stalking, and harassment by means of computer. C. Protections for Good Samaritan blocking and screening of offensive material. 1. Treatment of publisher or speaker. No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. 2. Civil liability. No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be held liable on the accounts of A. Any action voluntarily taken in good faith to restrict access or availability of the material that the provider or user considers to be obscene, lewd, lascivious, filthy, excessively violent, harassing, or otherwise objectionable, whether or not such materials are constitutionally protected, or B. Any action taken to make available to information content providers or the users of technological means to restrict access to material described in paragraph 1. D. Obligations of interactive computer service. A provider of the interactive computer services shall, at the time of entering an agreement with a customer of the provision of interactive computer service, and in a manner deemed appropriate by the provider, notify such customer that parental control protections, such as computer hardware, software, or filtering devices, are commercially available that may assist the customer in limiting access to material that is harmful to minors. Such notice shall identify or provide the customer, with access to information identifying current providers of such protections. E. Effect on other laws. No effects on criminal law. Nothing in this section shall be construed to impair the reinforcement of Section 223 or 231 of this title, Chapter 71, relating to obscenity, or 110 relating to sexual exploitation of children, of Title 18, or any other federal criminal statute. 2. Effect on intellectual property law. Nothing in this section shall be construed to limit or expand any law pertaining to intellectual property. 3. State law. Nothing in this section shall be construed to prevent any state from enforcing any state law that is consistent with this section. No cause of action may be brought, or no liability may be imposed in any state or law that is consistent with this section. 4. No effect on communications privacy. Nothing in this section shall be construed to limit the applications of the Electronic Communications Privacy Act of 1986, or the amendments made by such act, or any similar law. 5. No effect on sex trafficking law. Nothing in this section, other than subsection C-2A, shall be construed to impair or limit A. Any claim of civil action brought upon Section 1598 of Title 18, 1595 of Title 18, sorry for misreading, if the conduct underlying the claim constitutes a violation section of 1591 of that title. B. Any charge in a criminal prosecution brought under state law of the conduct underlying the charge would constitute a violation of section 1591 of Title 18, or C. any charge in any criminal prosecution under the state law if the conduct underlying the charge would constitute a violation of Section 2421A of Title 18, and promotion or facilitation of prostitution is illegal to the jurisprudence where the defendant's promotion or facilitation of prostitution is targeted. Definitions. This is pretty much just defining what internet means, access software provider, information content provider. Basically, it just clarifies certain things. Basically, the only aspect of Section 230 that is very important is the aspect of no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. That seems to be the issue that people seem to have with this, or I think this is the issue that many people have for this. Because after reading that, I really cannot tell what the huge issue is with Section 230. I mean, I could just be dumb. I could just be wrong, and I just don't know. I just can't see it. But nothing on there really seems to strike me as bad. Again, I could be just completely stupid, but from what I'm seeing, it just seems like average, whatever. But basically, the whole point is they're saying repeal that, rather than just going with the simpler solution, antitrust. Just break up these social media companies. Now we have 1 million social media companies. Now, if you're a free market guy, you should be in favor of this. This is the biggest weird thing about, the right wing. If you're so free market, do this. Antitrust is 100% just how the free market should go at the end of the day. If you want a true free market, you're gonna have to start busting some trusts. But anyways, I spent way too much time on this topic, so let's move on to another story that is kind of not good. Harrison selected as Biden's DNC chair. The choice of the South Carolina Democrat is welcomed by many state party officials. President-elect Joe Biden is tapping former South Carolina Democratic Party chair Jamie Harrison to lead the Democratic National Committee, according to 3 people familiar with the decision. A major victory for the state party heads and the powerful House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn. Harrison is a current associate chair and senior counselor to the DNC, will be charged with leading the Democrats through the tumultuous 2022 midterms and keeping the party's warring factions together if party members formally elect him as expected this month. Biden was also throwing his weight behind an all-star choice of vice chairs. The vice chairs are really unimportant. The only important thing is the DNC chair. And I'll be honest, I could be just completely unaware of Jamie Harrison, but I really don't buy him. I don't buy it. Nah. Jamie Harrison, he's one of those guys that just kind of, he seems to be, very simply, Democratic shill. He's, one of the, he ran for the DNC chair position, last time. Many people forget this, but he was actually a candidate for the DNC chair in the last election cycle. This is true. This is 100% true. February 2017. Who were the candidates? Sally Boynton and Brown, Keith Ellison, Jen Green, Peter Paretsky, Tom Perez, Sam Ronan, Pete Buttigieg, Howard Dean, Jamie Harrison, Raymond Buckley, Robert Vincent Brannon. These were the people who were running for the DNC chair position. And Jamie Harrison? Well, let me see. Did Jamie Harrison have any endorsements? Yes, he had Jim Clyburn. Jim Clyburn was one of his endorsements. Mostly African American individuals. I mean, that's not the interesting part. The interesting part was that most of them were heads of Democrat Party positions. Not heads, but they were individuals that were clearly clearly one of the individuals that would be potential candidates down the line. Like I stated, the aforementioned Jim Clyburn, the individual who literally they say, if you don't get his endorsement, you don't win a Democratic primary. But here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing. Again, I'm not necessarily a fan of Jamie Harrison, but there's one interesting aspect that most people aren't seeing. The way they're wording this is him literally saying, like, oh, he's already, like, Biden has tapped him to be the candidate, to be the DNC chair. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that this hurts his chances. It obviously doesn't. Getting the nomination, like getting the endorsement of the literal president of the United States, that's kind of a good way to lead into your, like, potential winnings. Like, I mean, if you're gonna win, that's definitely one way to win. Get the endorsement of your president. Now, here's the thing. There technically is a challenge to Jamie Harrison. He does have a challenge, so he will have to be completely, gung-ho. He is receiving one challenger so far. There may be potentially another challenger, but at this point, I don't think there is. Like, I mean, given the fact that Joe Biden literally just decided that he was going to endorse Jamie Harrison, and I mean, even some progressives are flat out just saying, yeah, Jamie Harrison's a good choice. And Jamie Harrison, no, he's not a good choice, but, he's inoffensive enough for the Democrats to literally just be like, yeah, I can work with this. The person that is going to be challenging him is Sam Ronan, who I just mentioned before was a smaller candidate who ran against him in the last DNC chair cycle. But I'm honestly kind of miffed. I wanted another, 2017 one. Where it was like Keith Ellison versus Tom Perez. Like, we actually had a chance to win. But no. Nah. Like, I mean, I don't even think I'll endorse Ronan, honestly, because Ronan, he's gonna lose. And I mean, given the fact that he's such a small person, it's very unlikely that the progressives that are on, like, the chair position are going to vote for him. At most that's going to happen is that his name will be put into recognition and then nobody will vote for him. It stinks, but what are you going to do? Especially considering the fact that Sam Ronan literally became a Republican for a little bit. A progressive Republican, don't get me wrong, but a Republican nonetheless. Anyways, let's move on to the last story, which is a very interesting one. National Rifle Association files for bankruptcy and plans to move to Texas. The National Rifle Association of America, the gun rights group feared for its lobbying clout, but now threatened with a dissolution by the state of New York, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with plans to regroup in Texas. Restructuring in federal court will help the NRA exit a corrupt and political regulatory environment of New York, according to the statement on its website. The NRA's petition to be filed in Dallas listed assets and liabilities as much as $50 million each. If the NRA is going away, I can live with that, 100%. NRA lobby, screw them. I don't care. They're just a waste of time. Waste of time, really. Okay, so now on the main topic of this video. Krystal Ball. Krystal Ball is an interesting political figure, to say the least. Now, I mean, a lot of people, we say that all the time. Interesting political figure. Krystal Ball, again, she's an interesting political figure, to say the least. Now, many people in my audience probably watch Krystal Ball. There are probably people who I follow on Twitter that watch Krystal Ball. Personally, I don't. I'm not a fan of Krystal Ball. And I'll get into why I'm not a fan, why I originally wasn't a fan to begin with, prior. But first, let me go over a little bit of her history, just so people might know her. She was, born on November 24th, 1981. 60 miles south from D.C. Her father was a physicist. Her mother was a teacher. She graduated from high school, obviously. then attended Clemson University before going to the University of Virginia and getting a bachelor's degree in economics. She was a business owner and a certified public accountant. She previously worked for the federal contractor CGI Group and traveled to Louisiana to assist the court's efforts to recover after Hurricane Katrina. She's a former columnist on The Atlantic. In 2012, she launched a boycott for a website. She launched a website calling for the boycott of advertisers on the Rush Limbaugh show after Limbaugh's comments about Sandra Fluke. I don't know that particular instance, so let me read up on that. Fluke's testimony on February 23rd, not about her sex life using contraceptives. She spoke and said about the experiences of fellow law students, according to the Washington Post, that included students who pay as much as $1,000 a year out of pocket after birth control prescriptions, a married woman who would stop taking the pill because she couldn't afford it, and if any need the prescription. Oh, so here's the thing. This is what happened. Like, Fluke, basically, she went into a congressional testimony in regards to contraceptives, and then Rush Limbaugh was quoted saying, Fluke essentially says she must have been paid to have sex. What does that make her? It makes her a slut, right? It makes her a prostitute. She wants to be paid to have sex. She's having so much sex she can't afford contraceptives. She wants you and me, the taxpayers, to pay her to have sex. So basically, Krystal was like, yo, bro, that's it's pretty sexist. But that actually happened, before, actually happened after one of her primary things, which I should probably get into. But before we get into that, we should flash forward a bit to explain why people in the modern day might know who Krystal is. Well, Krystal hosts a show called Rising with Krystal and Sagar, where she hosts a show with a conservative journalist named Sagar Angetti. Now, that is literally the reason why I didn't watch Rising. Because Rising, the way people, make it look like, makes it seem like they think this is some, big thing. This is a theme that has been done a million times, in the history of, political punditry. You have a conservative on one end, and you have a liberal on the other end, and they, talk and be like, can we find some common ground? Or, they go angrily at each other. Congressman John Yarmouth hosted a show like this, and need we forget Crossfire? Remember Crossfire? It was, one of the highest rated CNN shows. Of course you remember it. It's the same shtick. The conservative and the liberal. Can we get along? And then, they'll do whatever. Except this show has a new spin. You see, Krystal and Sagar are populists. They actually agree on things. Wow. What do they agree on? Well, Democrat bad. Wow. What else do they agree on? Well, rich people bad. Big social media company bad. We think Russiagate is pretty far-fetched. See, we agree on a lot of things. Notice what they agree on, though. And this was described by Vosh, and this is the perfect way to sum up the Rising show. They agree on the problems, but they don't agree on the solutions. And every time I've actually seen a Rising segment, I don't know what they say. Again, they agree on the problems, they don't agree on the solutions. Now again, you can disagree on the solutions, but then what's the whole appeal of your show? It's weird. Are they gonna fight all the time? What's the appeal of that in the show? I personally do like seeing a political debate sometimes, but I have to care about what they're saying. This is the first time I've heard of Krystal, and this is the first time I've heard of Sagar. I don't care about either of their political opinions. Now, if I watch, say, Ralph Nader debate Howard Dean, or Cuauhtemoc Cardenas debate Vicente Fox, or Huey Long debate Norman Thomas. Those debates would be interesting to see because I care about their opinions or I just want to see how they debate each other's viewpoints. It's interesting to see, interesting to pick the mind out of this individual person. Sometimes I'll even go a step further. At one point, I was watching a debate between George Lincoln Rockwell and Stokely Carmichael. I wanted to see how the debate went. I also saw a debate between Norman Thomas and Barry Goldwater. I watched some William F. Buckley shows where he invited Norman Thomas onto the show. I wanted to see how the debate would go, but I don't really want to see the debate between Krystal and Sanger. Well, I'm in luck, because they don't really debate that much. Again, it's with the issue. They care about the problem, they don't care about the solution. I never really seen any clips of Krystal Ball actually provide solutions with Sanger. And even then, the whole point of the show, at the end of the day, because you can't have one side win the debate, because then you wouldn't have a show. The show can't end if one side just automatically wins. So at the end of the day, they have to at one point just go, okay, we just agree to disagree. And it gets infuriating, especially considering, here's the thing. Sanger, the way Sanger describes himself is that he's a right-wing populist. And the whole point of the show, at least the way they're trying to pitch it, is okay, this is how the populists win. But here's the thing, everybody keeps missing. Populism is not a set of values. Populism is not a set of, political principles. What they are a way to bring those principles to light. A right-wing populist and a left-wing populist are not going to see eye to eye, really. And it's a complete just lack of political, literacy in regards to this that infuriates me. It's one thing that people say all the freaking time. They try to compare Bernie and Trump. They're just two sides of the same coin. The Bernie people and the Trump people wanted the same thing. And me and Krystal Ball we'll agree on things. But no, you don't. And it's evident because of Sager's point of view. Sager Angetti doesn't even believe in the legalization of marijuana, a position that's overwhelmingly popular, and yet is going to claim he's a populist. Because right-wing populists, they don't run on legalizing marijuana. Why would they? Now, I'm not going to necessarily say right-wing populism is just fascism, but, it is just, it's the same thing. I stated this in the last episode. Right-wing populism isn't a right-winger that supports Medicare for all, despite the fact that many people pretend it does. Even Count Kalinske pretends it does. It doesn't. If you're gonna even use the claim a right-wing populist and try to give it a set of political ideals, it should be the political ideals that the right-wing populists actually espouse. Right-wing populists don't espouse Medicare for all. Josh Hawley doesn't support Medicare for all. Trump doesn't support Medicare for all. And yet you're going to say, oh, a right-wing populist, someone who supports Medicare for all. Populism is not a set of ideas. It is a way to bring those ideas to light. It's sort of the same with nationalism, as I stated in the last episode. You can be a left-wing nationalist. That is a thing that happens. These two ideas, populism and nationalism, they inherently start on one side of the political spectrum. Nationalism is inherently right-wing, and populism is inherently left-wing. But there is a potential, you can use these ideas to spew the opposite sides of the political spectrum. You can be a left-wing nationalist, and you could be a right-wing populist. Now, many people have tried to use this as a way to debunk Krystal Ball, as a way of platforming, people who are unsavory, the supposed right-wing populists. Some people even go so far as to say, well, you can't really blame Krystal Ball for what Sager Angetti says. What Krystal says is what Krystal says. What Sager says is what Sager says. Now, that would be fine, if not for two things. One, they didn't host a show together where the whole point of the show is to literally be we're not so different after all. Like, the whole premise of the show ruins it. Like, even if the show was literally just a debate show where they would debate each other, that would be fine. But the whole premise of the show is that we're trying to get the populace of all sides of the aisle together to agree that we don't have to be enemies. We have to have common goals. And two, if Krystal didn't agree with Sagar at many points, like many people, and when I say many people, I mean Vosh. Like, go watch the Vosh clips where he explains this. I might just make a playlist of them if I want to. But he went over like many Krystal segments where she just like agrees with Sagar, just like 100%, like Democrat bad. It's similar to a Jimmy Dore thing, like, oh, Democrat bad. In fact, I may even contemplate revising my Dum Dum left list just so I can put Krystal in, because, I mean, it just gets so weird. And I mean, they got this really, really cringy moment that everybody, like, the second it, like, went, like, when shit hit the fan, it was just like, oh. It was when Krystal, this is a literal Krystal quote that she said on her show, well, guys, I was promised a coup. And it's like, ooh. Now, here's the thing. Now, you might say, well, this came out like a week before the Capitol riots. Okay, fine, whatever. No, not fine, whatever. This was happening during, like, when Trump was, like, doing the many things where he was trying to, like, get them to delegitimize the election. Like, trying to get Pennsylvania thrown out, like, trying to get them thrown out of the election so he could be president. And yet she's saying, Democrats, why won't you guys just shut up about Donald Trump? It's like, buddy, why? And I mean, it was just so weird that it was just like, why? Why did this happen? Now, all of the things I've stated previously have led to many people to come to the conclusion that Krystal and the Rising itself is a way to push people to the right. Like, make people more sympathetic to the right wing, because a lot of things that they talk about on the show never really attack the right wing, they don't really attack Trump that much. It's similar to Jim Dore. Democrat. And the inevitable thing is, like, this is just a true thing, when you attack the Democrats all the time, and then you never attack Republicans, and then you just never attack Republicans, your show's going to attract a Republican audience. Now, again, that show, I guess technically, it should attract some Republican audience, because, again, one of the hosts of the show is a Republican, but, you know, it shouldn't really be trying to make that Republican audience grow by making some of the Democrats who watch the show go to the Republicans. Now, there was actually a second reason to why I didn't watch the show, and I will have to explain something else, like her political side of things. Like, I've told you about, like, other things she did, but then there's this one political aspect that got her to get to the Rising, and these two things might actually add credence to the theory that Krystal's show is to push people to the right. Okay? So, the first thing that many people don't know is that Krystal actually ran for the House of Representatives at one point. In 2010, she ran to represent Virginia's 1st congressional district. During the campaign, Krystal supported these items of her platform: paying teachers 6-figure salaries. Okay, that's good. Education reform. Okay. Artificial certification for teachers. Do you want to know what that is? Artificial certification for teachers means basically to make it allowed so that teachers don't have to get the required paperwork to be teachers. Okay. That's weird. Ban on lobbying from former members of Congress. Ban lobbyist gifts. Increasing disclosure. And establishing a new independent ethics committee. Okay, that's pretty good. But here's one aspect that many people kind of skip over when they even talk about her congressional run. The fact that she supported charter schools. Now, What are charter schools for people who don't know? A charter school is a school that receives government funding but operates independently of the established state school system in which it's located. It is independent in the sense that it operates according to the basic principle of autonomy for accountability that is freed from the rules of the accountable for the results. Basically, it's a way to siphon off money from the public school system into effectively paying for private schools. So basically, you're not paying for little Jimmy to go to the school down the street. You're paying for little Jimmy. You're not even really paying for little Jimmy to go to school at all, because, if it's essentially a private school, then really there's nothing there for you. Now, her congressional run, it didn't go anywhere. She did make it to the general, but unfortunately, there were some posts that were leaked to the press that revealed that she posted suggestively with her husband at a Christmas party. I think one of the pictures was her husband had a Rudolph nose, but it was like a dildo. And then the joke was that she was biting down on the Dick Rudolph nose. That's lame, that stinks. Who cares? Krystal does whatever the hell she wants in her private life, who cares? But that effectively tanked her political career. However, it did kickstart some other aspects of her career. It kickstarted a media career where she would appear on Fox News, CNN, CNBC, eventually hosting a show called The Cycle, and she got in a little bit of trouble, when she stated that she was moving her child out of a poor African-American neighborhood and moving to a white neighborhood because she wanted her daughter to have a better school experience. And that made people go this is a bit weird, but we're all let it slide, so... that isn't... I don't know, really. Maybe the school system is crap, but I guess you could argue that the words that she used were kind of what? Why did you need to make that specification? Okay, but she then became a member... she started a political action committee called the People's House Project. It was a group that would inevitably try to help, working class Democrats try to get elected into the United States House of Representatives. Try to harken back to the likes of FDR is one of the things that she frequently wanted to say in regards to this pack. The Democratic Party has, shifted too far from its political endeavors, and we need to go back to our working class roots. And I'll just flat out list the individuals who were, recipients of the money from this campaign. Alonzo Pennington from Kentucky, J.D. Scholten, D.D. Adams from NC, Richard Ojeda, Mary Green from South Carolina, Mariah Phillips from Tennessee, Johanna Hayes from Connecticut, Jeff Erdman from Minnesota, Kate Browning from New York, Karen Mallard from Virginia, Lauren Moster from Texas, Janet Garrett from Ohio, Scott Skies from Kentucky, Trent Meston from Georgia, and Randy Bryce from Wisconsin. I don't know much about certain other ones, but the ones I do know about, I do look somewhat high of, with the exception of one, but we'll get to him when we get to him. He's kind of a bigger name than the most. But I like Randy Bryce, and D.D. Adams was an alright candidate. But they got a little bit iffy when it turns out that during the campaigns, she had, of the 445,000 ball raised for the group, she paid herself more a third of that in her salary. She made the case that, we started the group in 2017, but we weren't allowed to make money since we made it halfway through the year. So I'm basically paying what I was supposed to make at the end of the year. And whatever, I don't know. If that's a suspect to you, go to her Wikipedia article and you can verify the claims on your own. But one weird thing that happened was that Krystal Ball had this weird fixation for Richard Ojeda. Now, as the years went on, Richard Ojeda kind of weighed on me. He just kind of got weirder, a lot more vague. And he, seemed to really hate Paula Jean Swearingen for some reason. But, the thing was that she seemed to really get fixated on Ojeda. Ojeda seemed to be, her big thing. Of all the candidates in the pack, she seemed very focused. She seemed to focus heavily on Richard Ojeda. Every time they would do news stories about Richard Ojeda, she would be there. She would personally go down to West Virginia and help campaign for him. We need to get Richard Ojeda. Richard Ojeda was her model for the future of the Democratic Party. So much so that after his failed congressional run, she decided to pressure him to run for president. Yes, Richard Ojeda's failed presidential bid was her idea. And do you want to know what Richard Ojeda has out of all of this now? Let's look at a bunch of the Democratic challengers and see what did they get out of the presidential race. Bernie Sanders, he didn't win, but now he's going to be sent out of the chair. He's going to be the chair of the Senate Budget Committee. He got something out of it. Okay. Pete Buttigieg got to be Secretary of Transportation. Okay. Kamala Harris got to be VP. Joe Biden, you get to be president. Yang, you get to be mayor of New York City. Probably. I hope Dianne Morales beats you, but, very likely you're going to be mayor of New York City. Richard Ojeda? Let's review. He resigned from his state Senate seat, the place where he actually had a decent number of power. He then drastically failed when the actual big boy presidential candidates decided to enter the scene. He then suspended that campaign that went nowhere. He then decided to jump into a Senate race halfway through, and then just because Krystal built him up so much, he decided that he wasn't even going to campaign for that seat. He lost that primary, and now he runs a podcast. Richard Ojeda has nothing but, he's the future of the Democratic Party. That's why we gotta put all of our money and effort into getting him to be president. Now, I'm not gonna say that directly proves that she's she likes to ruin the left, because again, as Richard Ojeda, not really left, but I'm just saying that does seem weird, and I'm gonna leave it at that. So yeah, just overall, I'm just not a fan of Krystal Ball. She's definitely, I don't even necessarily compare her as a grifter, a Jimmy Dore type. I don't think. She does seem to platform him a lot, so maybe she should be considered a grifter just like him. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified if a future video line comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website, follow me on Twitter, join my Discord, or check out my articles on the Independent Political Report.